Welcome to lesson number 3, developing an effective training program. The training program you develop will determine the speed, quality, and impact of your team's research. By training your team effectively, you reduce confusion, prevent common errors, and enable your team to start reaping the benefits of user insights as soon as possible. In this lesson of our Team Building and Coordination with Research Hub course, we'll discuss tips and strategies for successfully training and onboarding your team to Research Hub. And remember, your customer success manager is here to support you in planning your rollout and preparing your training program. If you're not sure where to start, feel free to schedule a meeting with your customer success manager to discuss your needs and see how they can help. The first step in developing an effective training program is that you'll want to plan for a tiered rollout. We've heard from many of our Hub customers that they've had success with a phased approach to rollout instead of onboarding their whole team at once. This way, you can start reaping the benefits of project-based recruitment in a small team while addressing any early challenges. In this first group of users, you may only want to include the core UX research team or anyone who's already heavily involved in research at your company. Once you have a small group of people running research projects with Research Hub, you can choose one of two paths. Approach 1. You'll start building your panel and train the small initial group of users on panel-based research before rolling it out to the wider team. This way, you can learn and iterate on your approach to panel-based research with your small group, and you only have to train the wider team once. However, some teams may face unique challenges or concerns during the panel design process and prefer to open up project-based research to the wider team right away. In that case, we recommend the following approach. Approach number 2 would be the option of training the wider group on project-based research, then shift to panel-based research later on. With this approach, you can start seeing the value of fast, efficient, and broadly democratized research process as soon as possible. However, you'll want to be aware that you'll need to train a wide group of users on 2 different approaches to recruiting with user interviews, which can aggravate any change management challenges you may already face. The best approach will vary for different teams. If you're not sure, talk to your customer success manager about your goals, needs, and concerns, and they'll be able to give you a personalized recommendation. The next step is going to be considering the current state of research at your company. The most effective training programs are tailored to specific goals, needs, and challenges of your research team. As you're developing your approach to team training in coordination with Research Hub, you'll want to explore questions like, what kinds of user research is my team most commonly running? For example, this would be one-to-one interviews, focus groups, unmoderated tests, surveys, etc. What rules and standards you have set already for contacting customers for research? What is the current state of research knowledge, skills, and ability on your team? And which company goals and metrics you want to have an impact on? Research speed, participant response rates, and the number of teammates running studies are examples of this. Another thing to ask is, where should you create guardrails or checks when it comes to research? And lastly, asking yourself, well, what templates, features, and resources will I need to do all of this? And by answering these questions, it'll help you determine the type of training that your team will need to be successful with Research Hub. For example, if your team is largely composed of people who aren't used to doing research full-time, such as product managers or UX designers, then you will want to offer more guidance on general research best practices than you would for a team of only seasoned UX researchers. On the other hand, if your team is well-versed in research best practices, then it may be better to focus on your training materials on the ins and outs of the user interviews platform instead. Setting and tracking your goals can help you understand and grow the ROI of user research on your team over time. For example, you might want to track things like the number of completed research sessions in a given period of time, self-reported sentiment about the value, efficiency, and effectiveness of research by researchers, the number of active researchers launching projects in Research Hub, percentage of projects where participants were recruited using Hub, participant response rates to study invites, the number of participants currently in your Hub panel, the amount of time your team spends on recruiting, as well as the amount of time you spend on training and enablement. Goal setting can be a difficult task, but your customer success manager can help you identify, set, and measure the right metrics for your team. Next, you'll want to start creating customized onboarding materials for your team. In step 2, you spend some time considering the current state of research at your company. And based on those reflections, you should have a good idea of what kind of onboarding materials, both in terms of format and content, that will be helpful to your team. And for example, you'll probably want to offer some internal guides, which will be instructional guides or playbooks that are tailored to your company's specific needs and use cases. These are goals for encouraging your team to follow best practices. You could create these resources from scratch if you'd like, or you can adapt some of the resources that User Interviews has created for you, such as a quick start guide to research recruiting or one of the many instructional articles in our Help Center. Next up would be video tutorials. Many of our customers choose to create a short walkthrough of videos of various actions in the User Interviews platform. This is a great way to teach your team how to use the platform, show them exactly where different steps take place within User Interviews, and offer team-specific tips and instructions in a video voiceover. Another option would be to hold team trainings. A live team-wide training is also a great opportunity to teach your team how to use User Interviews while allowing them to ask questions in person. Your User Interviews Customer Success Manager will offer some team training and enablement sessions during the onboarding process, but you may want to conduct additional training sessions on a regular basis to refresh your team's knowledge. Another option would be one-on-one training or office hours. These would be ideal for less experienced researchers, new employees, or folks that would otherwise benefit from a more personalized onboarding experience. It can be helpful to offer one-on-one training sessions or set aside office hours for drop-in help. Last recommendation for onboarding materials would be to create a Slack channel or an Asana board. If your company regularly uses Slack, Asana, or another tool for the majority of your communication, it may be helpful to create a specific Slack channel or Asana board to quickly field questions and oversee research activities. And a pro tip for you, you can download the slides of every course in the UI Academy to adapt and customize for your team. You'll be able to share this with your team in live training or as on-demand references for product tips and best practices. As we mentioned in the first lesson, the User Interviews team is here to help. Our team is continuously working on creating, improving, and distributing resources to help you use our products successfully. And because we know how time-consuming creating this content can be, we'll help you lean on these resources when training your team internally. So some examples that you can use to save time creating training resources for your team, directing users to existing content like relevant courses on the User Interviews Academy for product-specific education, support articles from our Help Center for technical documentation, calculators like our incentive calculator, method selection tool, or qualitative sample size calculator. You can also use the UX Research Field Guide for research best practices. We also offer launch kits and free research templates to get up and running quickly. And lastly, read our UI blog and podcast for industry-related news and professional development. If you don't see what you're looking for, feel free to request new content, courses, or templates from our team.